Hey guys, welcome to lesson 212, day 2. We are continuing our studies of transformations of parabolas. Really today is just a practice day for what we've done this week, so we can be ready for the quiz tomorrow. So, number 1, we have an equation and we want to describe the transformations that take place, right? And we know we can look at these equations and just be able to tell based on the little individual pieces. Now for starters, I'm going to go ahead and write the general form up here. I suppose that's something I could have done originally when I made this, but it's alright. Okay, so that's my general form. And now let's go ahead and look at each little piece. We know there's a negative sign here, and that tells me that we're going to flip or reflect. And so we are going to open downwards. Oops. I'm gonna change my mind where I wanted to write that. Alright. So that's what the negative sign does. Next we'll take a look at this 2. That is our A value. So since it's our A value, it controls the stretches and compressions, and because it's a number greater than 1, we know that we're going to have a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Right? Next we'll do our H, that's this 4, and H is responsible for left and right movement. So we know that if our H is a positive, if there's a plus here, we're moving left, and if it's a minus, we're moving right. So that tells us that we are moving to the left 4. I don't need all that. Left 4. Alright, and last but certainly not least, we have K. Now, our K is pretty straightforward. If it's negative, it goes down. If it's positive, it goes up. So we know we are going to move down 7. Okay, and to find the vertex, remember vertex is always negative h comma k, which that just means opposite sign. Okay, so for us, our h is 4, so we are going to have negative 4. We just have to change the sign, and our k is negative 7, so negative 4, negative 7 is our answer. Alright, let's do another one. This one doesn't have any negative signs, so we can go ahead and skip straight to this 1/2. That's our A value. So that tells us it's either going to get skinnier or wider, which is a stretch or a compression. Now because it's a fraction, it's a number that's smaller than 1, we know that it's going to be a compression. So since we are working with a fraction, it is 1/2, which is definitely less than 1, we know that it's a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. Alright, you guys will notice there are no parentheses here, and that means that we don't even have an h value, so we're going to go ahead and skip straight to the other thing we do have, which is a k. You can tell it's a k because it's not in any parentheses. H always will be in parentheses. So, since our k is a positive 6, we know that we are going to move up 6. And that's the only 2 transformations that are taking place here because we only have 2 of the pieces of our typical graphing form equation. Alright, and then now we can go ahead and find the vertex. Here's the deal about the vertex, right? It's still negative h comma k, or sorry, opposite of h comma k. We didn't have an h, and because there is no h, our opposite of h is just going to be 0. Okay, and then our k is 6, so we'll put a 6. Okay, anytime you're missing an h or a k, you just use 0 for it. Alright, number 3. Describe the transformations for this equation. So let's go ahead as usual. We'll start here. This is our A. And because it's a decimal, it's a number smaller than 1, we are going to have a vertical compression. By a factor of 1/2, or I guess I should write the 0.5. Okay. Next, we have an H. Let's see what color I used for H before. Green, okay. So our H here is a -2, so that tells us that we are going to move to the right 2. Okay, and that's it for this one. So for our vertex, we are still, again, opposite of H comma K, but this time we have an H, right? So our opposite is going to be a +2 since ours is negative, but there is no K. There's nothing being added or subtracted on the end, so as I showed you in the last example, if there isn't one, you just put a 0. Alright, number 4. This time we are working backwards. I give you the description and you get to write the equation. So we know it's going to start with y equals. If we are reflecting over the x-axis, that just means we're flipping. That's a negative sign that we need. If we are shifting to the left 2, that tells us that we have an h of +2. Remember, it's always opposite numbers there. Alright. If I am shifting down 0, that tells me that my k is 0 because I'm shifting down just 0. And lastly, my vertical stretch factor of 5, that tells us that my a value is 5. Now recall, I'm going to rewrite it again here so I don't have to scroll up, that the general form of our graphing form of the equation looks like this. So our a goes first. However, watch out because we have a negative sign, so you got to put that at the very beginning. Next comes our a, which is 5. The parenthesis and the x, that's just always going to be there. Next comes h. It's +2, so I'm going to put a +2. And my k, so here's the thing about k. If you guys write +0, I'm totally fine with that. I wouldn't mark it wrong. But you can also just completely not write it at all because it's 0. It might as well not be there. It's up to you. Alright, one more of those. We have shift to the right by 0 units. That tells us our h is 0. Up 4. That tells us that our k is 4. And we have a compression by a factor of 1/3. So compression means we're talking about A. Now recall our general formula. Y equals. We don't have any negative signs this time, so we can go straight to the A. So A is 1/3. We're going to write that first. And then comes parentheses x. Now, here's the thing. As we did up top, you're welcome to write -0, or you can even write +0, but I'm just going to leave it out. Okay, so because it's a 0, it might as well not even be there. You can write the parentheses around the x or not, that's also up to you. If there's no h, that doesn't matter. And lastly, we have a k value of +4, so I'll do +4 on the end. Alright, one final problem, and this one is just a review of completing the square, which is what we do to convert a standard form equation to graphing form. So this is where we use the box. Alright, so recall our setup. The first thing we want to do is put the first term in the top left box. Do not fill out another box. That's for factoring. The next step is to take our second term, divide it by 2. We get 3x when we do that, so that means we're going to put 3x in both of these boxes. Okay, and so now that we've done that, we can go ahead and fill in the outside of our box, right? So here and here, we know that x times x is how we would get x squared. That's the only way we can really get x squared, so that's what'll go there. And then x times what equals 3x? Well, 3 times x equals 3x, so we'll just put a 3. Oops. And then here will be a 3 as well. Whenever you're converting to graphing form, the top and the side will always be the same. They should always be the same. And so now that we've done all that, we can go ahead and fill out our last box, which we get by doing 3 times 3, and that is 9. So we're almost done, but then you're like, my end goal should come out to this, technically, right? It's just going to look different. So if I look at everything I have in this box, I have x squared plus these 3 x's combined to make 6x, and then I have a 9. So then you notice that this isn't quite the same as this because we're missing a 15, right? We have a 9, what we wanted was a 15. So in order to get from 9 to 15, we have to see what we can add or subtract. So we're like, okay, well, I know that if I add 6 to 9, that will give me 15. So that's what I'll do. That's going to solve the problem and give us what our original equation is. So when I write my final answer, it's kind of like the factoring thing, right? I'm focusing on the sides of my box. But it's always going to be that squared. You don't want to write both of them. Just write the one squared. And then that plus 6 is just going to come here on the outside. And that is it. That's your graphing form equation. Alright, that is all for today. Give those practice problems a shot. Make sure you are ready for the quiz. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know.